Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the late entry today. Well, a little bit late. Kind of got lost track of time there for a second. But good morning. Welcome back to another stream. So hopefully you guys all had a great weekend and ready for a good trading week. Quite a few things moving today, but we should see a lot more activity throughout the week because we are going into a strong earnings week. We got Apple and AMD reporting earnings this week and many other companies. So today's going to be a very interesting week for the market. Could definitely set the stage for the future because if Apple reports a good earnings report, that would be a good boost to the market. So we got some big companies reporting, and if they report strong earnings, then that probably would give the market the necessary catalyst to maybe push into a new all-time high. So something to consider, okay? Yep, Spotify had earnings. Not really following Spotify, but we can take a peek at it. So the couple that I want to mention here is, you can obviously see Tiffany's. If you look at Tiffany's up pretty significantly today. Good morning from Hawaii. Good morning. Nice to see you. Glad to have you. So if you look at Tiffany's jumped from 100 up to 132 on the talks or rumor of a potential buyout from another company. Let me close out this and this. So yeah, Tiffany's is up pretty big today, right? If you look at the 4-hour chart, you're going to see it's into a new all-time high, new high, with a monster push, strong volume. It's hard for me, with how good the chart looks. You're like, oh, I want to long it. So initially, I would probably be long biased to start, but when you look at it and it's from 100 all the way to 132, it actually jumped from 98 to 132. So it's up over $30 a share, obviously, today. So initially, I would say be long biased just because of the formation, everything on it's bullish and it's trending in the upwards direction for right now. But ultimately, I would say it's probably more wise to be kind of short-term long bias and then more of a short trader on it. I just don't see it really ripping too much more than 132. Maybe it goes like 140. At the end of the day, if you just look at the move is so big to the upside that trying to jump on the long side at this point, you're already late to the move. The move has already happened, right? If I woke up today and I owned Tiffany stock and maybe I was swing trading it and I woke up and it was up, $34 a share from Friday, I would probably consider selling some shares. And that right there is going to kind of dampen that long potential move that it could have. Okay, so this is a wild one. We're up almost 40 points today. Got a big range. This is something that you should probably follow. You might see some good volatility on this stock today. NASDAQ SE. Yep, Roku has made a cup and handle formation. Absolutely. Patrick, yeah, I'd be more on the side of seeing Tesla pull back today just because Friday, again, that was a monster move. I think the stock jumped about $30 a share. Since the earnings day, it's up almost $80, close to $90 a share. So, yeah, you can't expect Tesla to keep moving the way it is. I would stay on the long side for now just because there's so much hype surrounding it, but don't be expecting it to continue moving like it has been moving. Wait till you actually start to see some sort of selling pressure coming into the stock because right now it's just all long buying bias pressure right now. You're not seeing any sort of selling pretty much at all. So I would wait a little bit till you start to see the signs of selling and then maybe consider the pullback on Tesla. But yes. All right. Doug Smith, hello. Tesla follow through today. You might get a little follow through, but I wouldn't bank on Tesla having a really great day like it has been. All right, so we'll move over to the next one, which is Microsoft. So I was asked questions about Microsoft last week. I know they reported earnings, and I basically said I am not really interested in Microsoft until it gets into its all-time high or a new all-time high, which it just did today. What am I talking about? But it just did today from the news that they got regarding the Pentagon. So Microsoft beat Amazon and I think another company in a bid to acquire a job from the Pentagon. So Microsoft wins Pentagon's $10 billion Jedi cloud contract, beating Amazon, blah, blah, blah. So that's positive news for Microsoft, and obviously Microsoft is now going to be making $10 billion. That's what that means. They literally are going to be bringing in $10 billion from the Pentagon. How much of that's earnings is another question. But in terms of revenue, they just increased their revenue by $10 billion is what that means. How much they actually earn all said and done is another question, but we already know that $10 billion is coming to Microsoft's books. So that has given it the additional boost to get it into an all-time high here. And so the all-time high break was at about 142. If we can get a retest of 142, which might not happen today, could be over the course of the next week. But what I'd really be looking, or what I would like to see is actually, I would like to see Microsoft come down off of the this breakout and retest the 142 level, 141 maybe. And if it can hold and bounce back up, then that tells me that Microsoft is respecting the all-time high breakout. And at that point, I would be more on the side of considering like a long trade on it to maybe swing trade. But for right now, just kind of sitting on standby to see what happens with it today and over the course of the next couple days, maybe next week, right? To see if it can hold that all-time high breakout level. What are my EMAs? 9, 20, 50, 100, 200. I'll actually just type it out. 9. That doesn't even make sense why I would do that. Let's see. Now it's working. 9, 20, 50, 100. Here you go. No, I would not sell Microsoft. Well, I mean, it really all depends what I sell. If I had it, no, not necessarily. I mean, if I bought Microsoft at $5, I wouldn't be selling it right now. I just let it keep going. If I bought Microsoft at, like $142, yeah, maybe I'd consider selling it if it was like a swing trade. So it depends on how or what, but, it's all up to you, really. But no, Microsoft's a strong company. Long term, I'd be holding it. But yeah, maybe like a day trade, swing trade, then maybe consider selling into the move, yeah. All right. And something else to consider today is ISEE, ISEE, is a penny stock. Right now it's on a down move, but this is probably the only penny stock that I figure is worth watching. There's a lot of other people that are considering watching XNet, but really they're just hopeful that it's going to continue higher today because they missed the move on Friday. But ISEE got some news here about a primary endpoint in something with its patients and macular degeneration. I have no clue what any of that really means. All I know is it has something to do with some studies and blah, blah, blah. And the stock is up now today. So this is worth watching for some. For me, I'll keep an eye on it, but I don't really see myself trading it. Maybe, we'll see. But ultimately, the stock has a 40 million share float, so it's a medium float stock, not a low float stock. The outstanding shares is 40 million. There's no short float. It's not a high short float. Basically, everything that I just said there regarding float and outstanding shares just means it doesn't have the characteristics that would typically lead to a big running stock. So it might have a move, it might have a play, but from what I'm seeing, it doesn't make sense for this to become a really strong running stock. So therefore, the fact that it doesn't meet the criteria to become a monster running stock makes it less desirable for me to trade. So I may or may not trade it, but for now I'll probably just be watching it. But I know a lot of people will be focusing in on this stock today. So this is like the number one penny stock that's kind of moving right now in the day from what I can see. So keep an eye on it, if you're interested. How do you identify other traders' most common stop loss level? It's pretty straightforward because you know what everybody else has been taught, and you know what everybody else is thinking. So if you know what everybody else is thinking, then you know exactly how they're going to play, right? Just think about it, right? Support. right? Wherever support is at for the stock, when that breaks, most people are going to take off their trades right there, and that's going to be the stop loss level. Same thing with someone who's shorting, right? If people are shorting, like this move here, they're shorting down, or they're shorting down, they're probably going to have stop loss over high a day, right? So why do you get big breakouts over pre-market highs? Because anybody who has been shorting a lot of times will have a stop loss at a pre-market high. So when you get over that, you'll have this big jump. And then you also have a bunch of people that have been taught that when a stock breaks over the pre-market high, that you should start buying there. So you get all the people buying for the pre-market high breakout, and then you get all the people buying because of their stop losses at the pre-market high breakout. And so, and the same thing vice versa, right? People are taught that, hey, when something breaks support, maybe you start shorting. So when something starts to break support, then you start getting a bunch of people shorting into that move, which means they're selling at the break of support. And then you get all the people that are like, well, it's breaking support. And that means I'm supposed to stop out from my long position. So now you get all the longs stopping out at that level, while all the people that are shorting are selling at that level. So now you get two sorts of selling pressure, and it creates a breakdown. So it's pretty much just identifying where you believe people are going to be stopping out. And how do you do that? It's typically based on support or resistance. Terrible hair day. Terrible hair day. Any idea on OCGN? I'm low, position average at 195. Should I let it run for a bit or just sell and take my small loss? Roku, please. Yes, we'll look at Roku, and we will also take a look at Spotify. We said OCGN. Well, for one, OCGN doesn't really have any volume, so you can't expect monstrous moves out of the stock unless it gets some sort of news-driven catalyst to drive it up. I would probably sell that stock. If I owned that stock myself, that's not something that I would hold, and where it's currently at is not something I like. You could get a pop, and it might jump, but ultimately, I mean, you're just hopeful right now is really all you are. There's no trend to it. It's downtrending. But, I mean, if you look back at it, you'll get a good idea of what it could do. I mean, if you look back here, did this thing go through reverse splits? I feel like it probably did. But if you look at it, right, like look at these jumps. That's what you'd be waiting for. You're waiting for that. You're waiting for just a random day to pop the stock up. That's all it is. Your stock doesn't trend up. It's not trending up. These little jumps that you're seeing here are just kind of news catalyst driven events where something comes of news and people buy into it and it comes crashing down. So ultimately, I'd probably myself, I wouldn't be holding that stock. All right, so we'll go look at Roku. All right, Roku, a lot of people have been following, talking about cup and handles, which is something that we mentioned like 2 weeks ago probably, or maybe a week ago. But yeah, basically when it was up towards like 140, we said to watch it for a cup and handle, which is the move that's occurring right now. It still hasn't fully broken out. So we'll put it on a 4-hour chart, and you'll see what I'm talking about. In actuality, the cup's a little off balance because the cup should stop like right here. So we have the cup. Oop, zoomed in, didn't want to do that. So the cup starts here, down, up. I'll just draw it out for you, make it a little bit easier. Cup should stop there, but we actually went up to here. So anyways, cup, down, handle. So the breakout on the handle will be over 140. So that's where I'd be paying attention for the cup and handle breakout over the 140 mark. The likelihood that it breaks out today, probably not likely. Even tomorrow, questionable. Ideally, you want to see it get up to the 140 mark and see how it reacts there, so that you're not buying into a short-term double top scenario, and then a pullback and then look for the breakout. So ultimately, yeah, Roku is kind of bullish for right now, but I myself would be waiting a couple days to see what happens as it approaches the 140 mark a little bit. Well, I guess we kind of already got there pretty close too. So we are kind of already up there. Let me take another look at this on like a 10-day chart. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it, right? You can see it's gotten up towards the resistance, watch for a pullback, and then maybe tomorrow break over the 140 is what I'd be looking for. SPY is near all-time high. Did it actually get to all-time high? That I don't know. We'll take a look. Yes, I think it did with that move. Well, actually, nope, it has not. All-time high is at 302.60. It is into all-time high. So, yep, the SPY just broke into an all-time high. Very nice. Cool, good stuff. 401ks are going to be doing good today. A Roth IRA is going to be doing great. So probably making a good amount of money in some of my retirement accounts. That's the beauty of it. So, as much as I want the market to come down and we go into, kind of a downward move to buy up more stocks and different assets at cheaper prices, granted, the more it goes up, the more money I'm making. So I can't really be disappointed. So that's cool. That's good. That's good stuff. Yes, if you're on a margin account and you have less than $25,000 in your account, then you're going to be limited to 3 round-trip day trades per week in a 5-day trading period. So yes, everybody on Thinkorswim that has a margin account that has below $25,000 is going to be in the same boat as you are. We say so network. How do you know when somebody is spoofing level 2? Well, I mean, pretty much just comes down to understanding. It's actually really easy, but until you actually understand it and know it, you'll never recognize it. But whenever you see a really massive order come through in the level 2 and then no massive order actually gets filled through the time and sales, and then it just kind of disappears, that's when you know someone's spoofing the bid or they ask or whatever. Yeah, so it's whenever you see a really monstrous order come through. And generally, a lot of times, it's definitely a spoof if it's not the first in line, which you're probably not understanding anything I'm saying right now. So unless you see a really big order come through, or let me rephrase that. If you see a really big order come through on the first level of level 2, which would be the first bid or the first ask, then it's most likely going to be a spoof, which means if the orders are really big on like the second or third level of the level 2, or they're third in line on the ask or the bid, then there's no way that order is going to be getting filled unless the people before him get filled, whether it's ask or sell. So pretty much simple terms, if a really monstrous order comes through on the level 2 and there's no transactions on the time and sales, it would represent that massive order, then it's most likely a spoof. Or if the orders are lower down on the level 2 and not first in line on the bid or ask. Because when you're spoofing, you're not actually trying to get filled the monster order. You're just trying to make it look like you're trying to buy a big order. So you wouldn't really want to get filled. And if you put your order first in line on the bid ask spread, then the likelihood of you getting filled would be greater, and your objective is not to get filled, but to make it look like you're trying to buy something. So you would naturally put it on the second or third level of the level 2 and not the first. So hopefully that makes sense and hopefully you understood that. Would you please review AVGR? I'll take a look at AVGR, yes. And then we'll take a look at Spotify after this. AVGR, no volume on the stock, so it's not something I would be particularly buying or holding because there's no volume, and without any volume, then the stock cannot move. So at this point, you need a catalyst or some type of news-driven event to make the stock really move. It has a short-term uptrend, which probably won't last. I mean, it could last, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's not a stock I'd be buying or trading. There's not much more to it. It's in a short-term potential little bullish pennant. It's on a pullback right now, so you should expect that today it's probably going to decrease a little bit more, potentially try and fill a bullish pennant, and then, in the next coming days, by the end of the week, you might have some resolution where it's either going to break up or break down out of this wedge. But again, without any volume, it makes it very hard for the stock to really make any sort of significant move. You can see the stock is clearly downtrending. It's gone through a reverse split right here, a 1 to 10 reverse split. So now you already know that the stock is a bad stock. So ultimately, AVGR, bad stock, not something you want to be holding. Let me rephrase that. Not something I'd want to be holding. All right, let's go take a look at Spotify. They did report earnings. They are up today. They haven't really done anything new since the time I first looked at them this morning. If you want to follow them long, you might as well. I'd probably just remain long bias on the stock. I mean, it's coming off a pretty significant low point. It was near a support level. It just bounced. We have the earnings. It's pushing it up. But if you look at the move, what are we up to? About 130, 130. Yeah, so it's like right there. So, I'll just do a quick little overview for you. This is not exactly how you use Fibonacci, but if we went from and measured this move from this high to this low, you're going to see that the 50% mark runs right at about 135. So in relation to how stocks would typically move, you don't have that much more room to the upside on this particular move that Spotify's having before you would see a pullback. With that into consideration, it's really, you've already missed a good chunk of the long, right? If you look at the past 20 days, where was it? I mean, We were down at 110. That was the low point of this move. So you're already off by 20 points from the best buy point, right? So for now, I'd say follow a long bias on the day. I probably don't even think I'm going to trade it, but I would probably remain a little bit long bias on it for today for the time being. We're up to 130. Yeah. ICHR breaking into an all-time high. Very, very low volume, so the stock can only move on technical breakouts and or news-driven events. Not something that I would particularly trade. Yeah, I mean, it's there's nothing more to say to it. I mean, it's bullish for the time being. You just had a really big monstrous leg. You should expect a pullback pretty soon. But I mean, if I was long that stock, I would just hold it for right now. There's no reason to be selling that. Just came off a nice cup and handle pattern. You can see it right here. Look at this cup and handle. Cup. Handle. Oop. Breakout. Right there. Or was there like two cup and handles? You had a big cup and handle, and then you had a mini one right here, mini cup and handle. So it's like two cup and handles and a big cup and handle that led to the breakout there. So cool. Anyways, yeah, I mean, I'd probably just be holding it if I was long biased, but I wouldn't be trading it. If you look at the volume on it, literally zero volume. So intraday trading on this would be a pain in the ass, not worth it. BYND. BYND, I'm pretty much just on standstill. They got earnings coming out tomorrow after hours today. Was it at 101? Kind of held the 100 mark yesterday. So, yeah, I mean, for right now, BYND is pretty much just holding its gap fill level from earlier this year. As we mentioned, it was going to come down to about $100. We mentioned that a long time ago. But anyways, it's really just kind of barely holding the gap fill level. Pretty much, it's all about the earnings right now. It really doesn't matter where the stock. Well, I mean, it kind of does matter. Right now, in reality, this is a good dip buy bounce level because we filled the gap to the downside. So typically, this would be a good level to buy in for a short-term swing trade bounce. But we do have the earnings coming up in after hours today, which is ultimately going to be the determining factor whether or not the stock pops or drops. So for me, it's really just on standby. You really can't really do much with it because it's got the earnings coming up after hours. That's a determining factor whether or not this thing breaks down 100 or ends up bouncing. Wow. OTC, we never really. I don't mess with OTC stocks, Larry. I apologize. I don't know why it's. Anyways. Yeah, no problem. What time is it? 9 o'clock. Nice. Yeah. So, all right, guys, we're gonna end it there. I'm gonna run, but ultimately keep an eye on Tiffany's TIF because of the volatility on it today. You can keep an eye on Spot, which is SPOT, for their earnings, which is also today. Microsoft pushing into all-time highs. The market's also pushing into all-time highs. We could have a major rip day if really the market truly wants all-time highs. Another thing, if the market's breaking into all-time highs and we do get a trending day, then you should be long bias on most stocks for the day. All right, other than that, guys, everybody take care. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning for another stream.